Hi, it's Rachel. Our freedom from our self-made mind to become a soul of light is also God's freedom. When you look at the commandment that we all have heard so often, to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, strength, that's with our entire being. And we love Him this way once we truly receive His divine love, because that kind of a love, it's of divinity, it's of immortality, and in that purity is the only way that we really have that love of connection, that love connection with God. So when you look at that first commandment and you start understanding the love that the Father has for us, which is very, very great, and you start receiving and accepting that love that has always been there for us, and it starts changing you and growing, you start having a love for the Father in a way that you never had before, because you're seeing Him as He is in that divine love and in that absolute truth that supports that divine love. And although we always grow in our understanding, because He is eternal, we can know that love is like swimming in the ocean. You can't understand all of it or be a part of all of it, but you can be a part of it, and it's real and it's true. That's being a part of that divine love. And when you have that in you, you truly do start to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And you desire to do that more and more, because that love is so incredibly magnificent. In this love and loving God, what you learn is that when one suffers, He suffers. When you love and care for someone, if they are suffering for whatever reason, whether it's by their hand or not, it hurts. You feel that because of your care for them and for your desire for them to be in joy and in peace and in rest and all these beautiful things. So when we are bound and imprisoned by our own self-made mind that's created by our self-directed will, that's making all kinds of erroneous judgments, that's leading to all kinds of pain and suffering and hardships that cast this cloud of just like a shadow of death, you realize when you understand that love that God has for us, how that hurts Him. And even though He is in the eternal present, He sees the beginning and the end, and He knows our final end, which is to all be in the light, in His likeness, in His reflection, that we will all be children that are in that union of love with Him. In the meantime, even though you know that, you still suffer. So when you love God, you realize that the suffering of this world is His suffering. If one soul is suffering, He suffers. This is why He will be all in all. That is why all will be connected to Him. Because otherwise, if not, then He suffers. That's just the nature of love, because that's how deeply it cares. So we come into this place of wondering, how in the world can God, who we are growing in this love for and understanding the nature of love, and realize that when He doesn't have that bond of love with souls, they don't and He doesn't, there is suffering. how will that end? Because the self-made mind creates a blindness. Because that's what it is. It's thinking that you know when you don't know, so you cast erroneous judgments even about who God is, that he would even be a loving heavenly Father that could be in eternity with people suffering, with souls suffering. That's just not possible in divine love. And this is what you realize. But now this false image is placed upon him, and how it must hurt. Because if you are, in our very basic human experience, if you are a father or mother loving your child, and that child thinks that you're horrible or mean or wanting to cause them suffering, you're really trying to prevent that, the fact that they hold that reflection, that hurts. Even though you know they're a child, even though you understand, because they're not experiencing your love and the purity of it, it's a disconnect. So long as there's a disconnect, both suffer. So if it's our free will that's keeping us as a human race separate from the Heavenly Father, but yet that free will isn't free at all, because our will is now bound by the self-made mind and false judgments made out of a lack of knowledge that aren't even true. It's blindness. It's a prison. And getting out of that is very difficult when you're blind, because you don't even see. You don't know what you don't know. You don't realize that you're not in truth. That's where we have to be delivered, all of us. But you realize our deliverance, our freedom, is also our Heavenly Father's freedom. Because if we're not in a bond of love, He's not in that bond of love with us either. And when you love, that causes suffering to your spirit. The reality is that if all could see the true Heavenly Father, His true nature, His true will for others, what His will creates, everyone would choose Him. Everyone. But in the blindness, they can't even see the choice because they don't see Him. This is what is impossible for us as mankind to do, because we're the ones that are blinded. We're the ones that can't see because of the darkness that self-made mind creates, and our inability to see even our own true source, our Heavenly Father. So the truth is, the reality is that all would choose Him. So if that's the truth, that's the true will. So what is the true will of a human soul? To abide in love. Now, because of all the pain and the suffering that love has taken on in its natural form, absent of divine love, people may not realize that. But that is what every human soul longs for. So if that's every human soul true longing, even if they don't realize it themselves, then let that will be fulfilled, not the one that's bound up in lies and darkness and blindness. And let the reunion of the very beautiful love of our Heavenly Father in each soul be manifested, and freeing not only us, but in a sense God. Because if you love and you are separate from the one that you love, and that you're not experiencing that, that is your own confinement and bondage. When you love God, this becomes your prayer, that He would be able to experience a freedom, which is experiencing a bond of love with each and every one of his children, which is all of us. That's the true freedom. It's an all-consuming freedom. We are all bound as long as we are bound in this self-made mind. And it is his spirit and truth being revealed in this reality as he is, to be known and seen and perceived by the souls of mankind as he is, that is our freedom. That should be our prayer. For that is what is the true liberation.